special guest today, the women's golf coach, Miss Barb Odale. Odale is correct. We just went over the whole guy who gave her a dissertation on her name, and she'll be our guest for the next 30 minutes. We're going to get to know her coaching, and more about her life. So, Coach Odale, how are we doing today?
We're doing great. Thanks. It's a great day in San Angelo. Perfect weather for golf.
It is pretty nice. I'm hoping to go out after class. I definitely wouldn't skip that.
There you go. He said, we got to go to class.
We got to go to class. But I just want to know more about your coaching background. Let's just start there, get to know how you ended up here
at Angelo State. So I used to coach at the University of Texas Pan American, which is now University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. They took over and kind of combined a couple schools there back in, I think, 2014. But originally got recruited to coach there, which is a small Division I school down in South Texas. And South Texas, there are 4 more hours beyond San Antonio, which a lot of people think South Texas and think San Antonio is as far as you go. But if you keep on going down right at the border, that is where UT-RGV is. So I was recruited there in 1999, took over a program that was super struggling, and became, actually at that time, I was the first full-time coach. At that point, the 2 women before me were only considered part-time. Neither one actually had a college degree. They were just in the area and happened to be pretty good players themselves, and then they kind of handed the program over to them. They actually just celebrated the 30-year anniversary for golf over there at UTRGV, honoring Cindy Paget, the first coach. So, and Cindy was a good player herself. She played for Odessa Junior College and kind of went on from there. But anyway, I was the first full-time coach. So took over a pretty struggling program. They had just lost their All-American. Well, not lost. She graduated in 4 years. So their All-American had finished out. They didn't really do that good of a job as far as recruiting goes. And so I came in to six players at that point, 1 freshman, and then 2 juniors, and then 3 seniors. And so, yeah, it came into they were already in their routine and kind of had that down. So it was a little harder at that point. But in 99, took over. We actually were ranked probably 300 out of 306 in Division I. I would have to go to the back page and look up for our ranking. So our stroke average was not very good. We needed to definitely turn it around. I helped the girls that were there to at least improve their stroke averages, improve how they play. But the main focus is recruiting. And so come into a similar situation. I came into 5. We ended up having 1 walk-on for the spring semester from the San Angelo area, but they kind of already had established. They already had their routine. They had down their patterns. So my goal when I came in was, 1, to develop a team rapport, and 2, just help these guys become the best golfers that they can or want to be.
And you're partially underselling how much you rose golf stat rankings. I think I read you were bottom 5%. Yes. By the time you left, y'all were top 30% on golf stat ranking.
We were. We were in the top 75 in the nation for Division I. And looking pretty bright because I had already set up recruiting for the next few years. So actually had already established, because one of my players had a younger sister that we already knew was coming to the team. I recruited another girl that came off of, her mom was an All-American player that I kind of knew through mutual friends. So I was bringing her in as a freshman. So when I left there in 2007, I left the team in good condition that for the next 4 years they could thrive and grow. And actually the coach behind me the next year in 2008 was named the WAC Coach of the Year because her team won the WAC championship, because UTRGV at that point then got into the WAC that year that I left. So we were, it was kind of that transition. But at that point, the athletic director there was new, and I was trying to get more money to be able to take care of my own kids. I had three small children at home. And when I would leave, usually my mom or my mother-in-law would come and help my husband with young kids and getting them ready for school and everything else that's involved in that. And so we needed extra help. I asked for extra money, and the new athletic director said, yeah, no, I'm not doing that my first year. I'm not going to ask for a raise for my golf coach. And, looking back, I had to make choices, and I made a choice to be with my own kids versus us struggling, because we really needed help at home. My husband was struggling, and we needed a little bit of help to be able to hire somebody, but we couldn't make that money financially. So that's when I basically kind of retired. I helped them hire the new coach behind me. I helped make sure the team was growing, because I care about my players. I care about who they are individually. I care about what they become beyond how they help me as a coach at the university. So,
and you haven't coached from 2007 till now, is that correct?
That is correct.
So what made you want to come back to coaching?
So honestly, in 2020, I already started having an itch, and then COVID hit, and you're kind of at home, and my kids were at home, and my own kids at this point now in 2020, my youngest was a senior in high school, and my other two were already in college, and my oldest son was actually in grad school. So they're already older. And then I got a call from SMU that I was being inducted into the class for Hall of Fame for my playing days at SMU there in Dallas. And so you kind of start thinking, wow, and you start kind of reliving those memories of college memories. And then that even leads you into into coaching, and you kind of remember about that. And honestly, in the 16 years or 15 years that I've been out of it, I was coaching. I was coaching my kids in softball. I was coaching my kids in baseball. I was coaching. I actually was the assistant soccer coach at a high school. I was the assistant basketball coach. I was the assistant, also an assistant volleyball. So coaching has always been my passion. I love seeing kids go from one skill set to being an improvement. And sometimes improvement's small, sometimes improvement's in attitude, sometimes improvements aren't necessarily measurable until you give it a length of time, 2 or 3 years later. But all of that, I wouldn't have traded it for the world to be there with my kids, to watch them grow and become good at their sports, and not even sports too, because I had 2 that were in band, and I got to go watch band concerts and marching band competitions, and I got to watch just different academics, even though you don't watch the academics, like I got to go judge some of the other, areas and stuff. So it was to be involved with my kids. That was important to me and my husband, that our family comes first. And a lot of people say that, but we were going to actually make it a real deal. But going back to coaching, like that itch and that going back to that Hall of Fame, we actually, because of COVID, they didn't have the ceremony until the end of 2021. So technically we are the class of 2020, but didn't get recognized until 2021. And you go there and you start remembering. And then I kind of really honestly in golf thought, oh, I'm too old. I don't know the technology. I know that it's been growing. The game's been growing. I don't know a lot of different avenues and aspects. But I started hanging out with the current SMU golf team, both the men and women. And it was interesting because we tell stories and, kind of go through that. And they would ask me advice. And I was like, whoa, like, you actually want to know, like, what I think? And then the number one men's player at SMU at that time, who's now professional, he had a class with my youngest son and said, hey, Nathan wants to, like, call you. Can he call you? Because he's got a couple questions, like, he wants to ask you specifically. And I said, sure. So you have these conversations and you go, maybe I'm not too old at this point, because honestly, golf is still the same. You have to get the ball in the hole in the least amount of shots. It's just that, they kind of focus in on swing speeds and the technology of TrackMan and all the other, simulators and stuff. That's the part that I didn't know, but I've always been pretty apt to be able to learn computers. And I even taught computer class a couple of years in the classroom. So I began to think, maybe I'm not too old. And my kids started encouraging me. My kids are like, Mom, it's your time. Go back. Like, we will remember, like, how passionate you were. And so here we are.
Here in San Angelo, Texas.
In San Angelo, Texas.
And you talked a little bit about playing at SMU.
I did.
Figured we'd go ahead and get into that. Okay. How was that whole experience and what all?
So at SMU, which is Southern Methodist University, SMU, but most people don't even know what that means, which is kind of funny because we would even have SMU on our polos and stuff. And they're like, oh, SMU, because the year that I started was the second year of the death penalty. So that they had been cut from football. The NCAA sanctions had come down on the SMU football team back in 1988, 87, 88. So I started in the fall of 88 at SMU, which was second year of death penalty at SMU football. So there was no football. The homecoming game was soccer game. It was a different vibe, and it really killed SMU. And honestly, now going into the ACC for next year, SMU athletics really took a hit. I mean, football killed the whole vibe of SMU at that point. And honestly, even from a recruiting standpoint, my parents were like, yeah, I don't think you're going to SMU. And that's, I guess, that little rebellion in me is like, oh, you're going to tell me not to. Well, I think that's where I'm going to go. So it actually was the best thing for me. The coach there was amazing. And that's, for me, what made it. Yes, I was a very good junior player. I was an All-American in high school. So coming into it, I was pretty heavily recruited. But SMU was kind of funny because I took it as a practice warm-up official visit back then, because we would get 5 official visits. You couldn't start until you started your senior year of high school. Yeah. And I'd already had scheduled visits at Oklahoma State, at Duke. I'm sorry, not Duke. I was waiting for Duke. Duke had been writing me letters. That's, for those that don't know, writing is actually where you actually type out, and they are hand write with a pencil. And pen, you put a stamp on it and wait several weeks to get a response. But Duke had been writing me since my freshman year in high school. So I thought Duke was kind of going to be my choice, but I had already scheduled visits with LSU, Oklahoma State, Ohio State, and I'm forgetting, Arizona, University of Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I was waiting for the 5th to be Duke. And so when SMU called, and she was persistent, and I was like, well, Mom, what do I do? And she's like, well, Dallas isn't very far, because we lived in Houston, so it was like 3-hour drive. She's like, just take it like unofficial. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, take it late. And then my mom came out, hey, we could take this as a practice run, so that way you kind of know what to expect on recruiting trips and stuff. So SMU was my first recruiting trip. And fell in love with the campus. Campus is beautiful. Mm-hmm. No, there's just no doubt. And then the coach, she was national champion herself. She was an LPGA Rookie of the Year. So to learn from her and get her insight was what I really craved. And I was craving I needed, even though I was a good player, I wasn't a great player where I wanted it to be, because I knew I needed to take some steps, and she really helped focus in on those steps. But SMU was an amazing experience. I played well, obviously, but that's where my passion comes from, and that's where my coaching philosophy comes from, is when I try and coach, I try and treat the players the way I wanted to be treated when I was a player. So I try and give them some space, because we know our own games, but then there's times where you kind of need to be, okay, you really need to do this. I see this flaw in your game. So that's kind of where my, philosophy comes from as far as a coach, from transitioning player to coach, is treat the players the way you wanted to be treated when you were a player.
Mm-hmm. And at the time of SMU, was that also the 2 years you participated in the U.S. Women's Open?
Oh, yeah. So my playing days at SMU were really great. I was fortunate enough to win the Southwest Conference back in the old Southwest Conference days, my sophomore and senior years. My sophomore year is way more memorable than my senior year, because my sophomore year, I went toe-to-toe with a Japanese player, Michiko Hattori, who at that time was kind of the unbeatable in college golf. She had won basically every tournament she had entered, and was first-team All-American her freshman year, first-team All-American junior year, and sophomore year, and then junior year. And I was a year behind her. So I was a sophomore, she was a junior. Uh-huh. And my sophomore year coming in, she had a 4-shot lead going into the last day, which really, by all accounts, is almost an automatic win for her. So honestly, it was kind of one of those days where she did not have a good day. For her, a bad day was 76, and I had a good day, and I shot 72. Uh-huh. There were 3 of us tied coming into the 18th hole. I had just birdied the last hole to catch up with them. So we came in tied to the last hole. And so she saw her 4 shots dwindle, which was kind of like never had happened before. She was the first Japanese player to come over to the United States at that point. She was kind of that unknown. Her English was very broken, but honestly, she was fun to play with. And, and it was fun because she always had an entourage of media people with her, probably 20 everywhere she went, whether she went to class, whether she went to, it was kind of equivalent to us with Taylor Swift. She was like the Taylor Swift of Japan at that point, because they didn't really have pop star. It was like golf, women's golf, for whatever reason back in 1990. And so anyway, I digress. But we came in tied, so I had the honors teed up, and actually our last hole was a little par 3, which is kind of a weird way to end a tournament, but a little par 3, and I hit it, and I was like, just hit the green, and I knew my adrenaline was flowing, and I hit a little 9-iron to the back end of the green, and I was like, okay, I hit the green, okay, that's all I had to do. And then she ended up leaving it short in a bunker, front edge of the green. The other girl pulled it left on the left side of the green, so they had this weird, awful chip. And Michiko just wasn't a good bunker player, and she'd never really been in bunkers. And she ended up chili dipping it out of the bunker. She kind of chunked it, kind of left it in the bunker, so now she had another bunker shot, and she put it up. Her second bunker shot, she put up like 3 inches from the hole. She almost holed it out. I thought she had holed it out for par. And so I was like, oh. And but the other girl, her chip kind of was one of those side hill freaky chips, and she didn't do it very good and ended up 20 feet from the hole. And I made a good 40-foot lag putt and made the par and those 2 bogeys, so I won the championship. And then my senior year, I won it by 10 shots or so, so it wasn't really close. So I just played really good golf in all 3 days and never was challenged. But my sophomore year, just remembering how to do and how to win and wanting to win, and wanting that victory. And so that leads you into qualifying. And so I ended up playing pretty good my sophomore year going into my junior year. My junior year, I had a really good year. Ended up being first team All-American, won a couple of events, came in second a couple of events. So being a first team All-American bled into my summer golf, and I ended up qualifying for the U.S. Open. So I qualified for the U.S. Open, which happened to be there in Fort Worth. So I was actually doing summer school in Dallas, and then got to go over to Colonial in Fort Worth. So we played the U.S. Open at Colonial Country Club, and I actually had to asked to take my summer school final early because of practice round for the U.S. Open. And my professor at first said no, he wasn't going to let me go practice. I was like, really? And he was a big golfer, which I was like, you realize it's the U.S. Open. Like, it's not just, and he went, yeah, no, you're not. And so we had to appeal, and like, there's no harm in taking the test early. Just let her take it early so she can go represent SMU at the U.S. Open. So, yeah, they ended up doing it, but it was kind of funny that it wasn't going to let happen because he was a golfer. And then I ended up making my professional debut at the following U.S. Open in '92, which happened to be at Oakmont, which for golf people, Oakmont's just kind of one of the ultimate like golf venues with the church pews, and it's really kind of that old school, old style. So that was my professional debut, was the '92 U.S. Open.
And then so that led you here to Angelo State coaching now. And I'm wondering, now that it's your first year here, the man before you left you some players already.
Yes.
And many of them are from very different places.
They are.
What's it like having a team just full of a bunch of, I guess, different cultures?
That's the cultures is what makes everything unique. You pull those together because we that have to deal in business and in life, we have to deal with people that aren't always our same personality or always our same belief system or our same anything. So like you really have to learn. Like I kind of love pulling in from different areas because sometimes we can get kind of bland and plain when we have people that are the same mindset, same culture, we went to high school together, same everything. And so when we have a girl from Czech Republic and we have a girl from Canada, you kind of bring it in. It brings in a unique experience. And I did that at UTPA. We had a girl from Sweden. We had a girl from Mexico. We had several girls from Mexico. We had several girls from Canada. And so you bring in all that diversity, and that's where it gets challenging. But it's also fun at the same time because you have to appreciate their culture and where they're coming from, but you also have to help them understand American ways and American thought process. And so sometimes things do get miscommunicated and get kind of crossed up, but that's kind of I think the also very huge key is communication and making sure that everybody actually understands what you're trying to, that message you're trying to convey over and to get it across, and the ideas.
I feel like one of the things with golf and people from other cultures is places in, I guess, Europe compared to some places, balls run out differently. So you're going to play shots different. Like we have the Texas wedge because we can run a ball about 100 yards and it's not going to stop.
Sure, that's it.
Florida, that's not going to roll out very far on their grass.
Well, Florida actually is real similar to Texas, but if you go up like, say, Minnesota, which is almost in Canada as far as I'm concerned, No, so Beatrice, that's on our team right now, is from Canada, and her game is very dart-like, where she hits it exactly because she's used to the greens in Canada and the northern part of the United States where balls stick immediately and stay right exactly where you are. Whereas she has had to learn over the course of the last 4 or 5 years how to hit the Texas wedge. And she likes saying that word, Texas wedge. But you have to learn how to bump and run and how to roll it, and that it's not going to just go and stick. And you have to play for, okay, so if the pin is actually 153, you really kind of want to carry it 140 and then let it roll the extra 13 yards or so because of the way the greens are. And that's really where the diversity comes into play on the golf course, like you said, because we go and play not just in Texas. You know, our first tournament that I was here in the fall was in Denver, Colorado. Way different climate, way different altitude, different greens, different types of grass. And so you kind of, how sticky is the grass? How does it roll? How does the greens roll? We're getting ready to go to Arizona next week. Arizona will be similar to Denver, but it's still not here the same as in San Angelo. So we have to kind of work on that diversity.
And also, you talked earlier about how at UTPA, or I guess RGB now, you had set up the recruiting class for the next 4 years. How's recruiting gone so far here at Angelo State for your first year?
The first year, so recruiting here has been super easy. And I'm not used to that. I wasn't used to it. I had every girl that I made an offer to accepted for scholarship. And I'm used to being turned down a little bit. When I was at UTPA, I would definitely deal with parents not wanting their daughters on the border with the border violence that goes on and stuff like that. So that was a challenge. The girls from Texas that I got here that I've signed, once I got them on campus, they were all in. And then you kind of see the vision of our new facility, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute. The vision of the new facility and recruiting wise, and how that super helped. You can kind of see that our here at Angelo State, we're really about forward progress and forward thinking, and really embracing how can we get better. And so, yes, so I've signed 8 girls for the fall, 2 girls from Sweden, 1 girl from England, and 1 girl from Australia, and then 4 Texans will kind of diverge there. So that's the 8 scholarship players. And then we also have 5 walk-ons that will be challenging those scholarship players. And so recruiting-wise, we're in a great spot. And once this facility gets built and you can actually visually see, I think it's just going to get better and better. And I already have set up 10 recruits for the following year that are already juniors, and I've already got 5 set for sophomores. So we're already like in that forward going on ahead. And
you spoke about the new facilities, which I should have gotten to earlier, I guess. We're in our last minute here, but in about 20 seconds, how excited are you for that?
I am super excited. Like I said, the new facility, first class all the way, can't get any better. We are going to compete against even big Division I's. I'm hoping we're competing for a national championship in about 5 years.
And then I hope I can sneak out there sometime. Who knows? Probably not, but whenever it's dark out, hopefully no one else is out there.
Jump the fence, and we'll have to call the security.
Yes. But guys, this was our 3rd episode of Ram Zone here with Coach Barb Odale. Thank you for being here, Coach, and hope to see y'all next week, Thursday, 12:30 to 1, live on Facebook. Y'all have a good one.